Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here with a bunch of my friends to be talking about, to be doing a superhero bracket tournament. We're going to definitively decide what is the greatest superhero movie ever made. This is going to be very, very exciting. I'm going to be the host, maybe filling in if there's some problems, and we are going to have joined by three of my favorite friends and YouTubers. And do you want to all introduce yourself, starting with David?
Well, hello there, everybody. If you don't remember me from the last two podcasts, I am David. Or if you never saw them, I am David. And I love movies. I've been reviewing movies for about 4 years now. I have lost my mind doing it because I've watched some beautiful masterpieces of cinema, and I've also watched some garbage of cinema. And that's been a double-edged sword for both the superhero franchises. Seen some great ones and some horrible ones. So, yeah, this will be fun.
Yeah. Larry, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Larry, and I review movies and do other stuff over on my channel, LC Screen Talk. And I love the superhero genre, part of this oversaturation craze. But I'm not too ashamed of that. So I'm excited for this bracket contest thing.
That should be really fun. All right, Chris, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Chris, a.k.a. Durbin, on my channel, Durbania. I do a lot of what all you guys do. I review movies. I have ranking videos. I have this thing I call a theological analysis, where I like to pick movies apart and dig really deep into them and maybe read things into them that aren't there, but that's what I do anyway. So I just go ahead and record it and put it up on YouTube. So it's really, really fun. So I do lots of really fun things like that. And I love superheroes, and I could geek out on superheroes for hours. So I'm ready. I hope you're ready for hours.
Yeah. I'm ready too. All right. So, okay. So we're going to start round one. There's 48 films altogether. We're going to start out round one, and then we'll see kind of how long it takes us, and we may do a second episode to finish out the tournament next week, or in a week or two. So that's what we get first. The first bracket that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about The Dark Knight versus Iron Man. And I tried purposely to kind of put stuff around ones that I thought would be, I didn't want any movie to have kind of a free ride. I want this to be a definitive, this one really earned it, I guess, if you could say. So that's why I have two pretty good movies matched up against each other for this first round. So we'll go David, then we'll do Larry, and then we'll do Chris. As far as all you have to do is just just explain your pick in a couple sentences, and there you go.
Well, it's a shame for Iron Man. I love that movie. It still, to this day, to me, is the best MCU movie to date. It started it all, and it's kept that standard up there. But The Dark Knight is a movie that blew me away opening night. I saw it with my dad. I loved the opening shot all the way to the end, and I still, to this day, quote it and watch it and just love it. So I'm sorry, Iron Man, but I got to go with The Dark Knight.
So I also really enjoy Iron Man. It's not quite my favorite, but it's pretty far up there in my MCU ranking. But in contrast, The Dark Knight is arguably my favorite movie in the entire DC catalog. So I'm picking The Dark Knight.
Nice. Right. So we have a consensus then, because I also am going for The Dark Knight.
Sweet.
I mean, it was just... What more can I add that you guys haven't already said? That movie is amazing. Nothing wrong with Iron Man. Iron Man is flipping fantastic, but there's something about that Dark Knight, the way the story's told, the way it unfolds, the way the characters are portrayed, beginning to end. That movie is amazing.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, so next up we have Hellboy versus Deadpool. So this should be interesting.
All right. Well, I like Hellboy, but I don't love it. Deadpool blew me away. I was shocked at how much I laughed and cried from laughing during Deadpool. So Deadpool is like a clear winner here. I still like Hellboy. It's a fun little movie, but Deadpool is like, golly, it was such a pleasant surprise. So I got to go with Deadpool.
All right.
So the battle of the two red, kind of ugly, disfigured superheroes here. I think I think Hellboy, sorry, is really fun as well. It's a like cool, kind of different superhero movie. It feels a little bit different than a lot of the other movies that are going to come up. But Deadpool was awesome. And I think for like the opening credit sequence being like the best opening credit sequence I've ever seen alone, I would have to throw my vote to Deadpool.
Nice.
Yeah, consensus again, because I'm going to go with Deadpool over Hellboy. I liked Hellboy, didn't love Hellboy, but Deadpool, I mean, very rarely do you come across a superhero movie where that actor is so born for that part. Like Ryan Reynolds was just so absolutely born for that role, and that's one of the things that just absolutely made it, was just how perfect it was for Ryan Reynolds, on top of the fact that if you were to be in that theater sitting next to my wife as she's laughing hysterically at the nonsensical violence, that too would have you loving that movie even more.
Nice. I haven't seen either of those, so
Where's
so that's
Francis?
interesting. All right. So next up, we have an interesting one for me, at least. We have Captain America: Civil War versus Big Hero 6. Sort of an unusual combination.
Now, this is very interesting for me, especially because these are two well-beloved movies that I do not love.
Mm-hmm.
I am very mixed on both of these movies. And that's going to make it very hard because which one do I least like? I mean, it's not like I hate them, but just, Big Hero 6 felt like it was lacking some meat to the story. Civil War just kind of irritated me because I wanted it to be a Captain America movie, but it felt more of an Avengers movie to me. I'll give it a Civil War, though, just by a hair.
All right.
So I did a ranking of all the like revival era new Disney movies, and Big Hero 6 came up kind of in the middle on that ranking. I haven't done a Marvel ranking, but this is the second time I'm going to reference that imaginary list and say that if I did do a Marvel ranking, Civil War would definitely be top 5, maybe even high up in that top 5 for me personally. So as much as I love Baymax and how much he does for that movie for me, I think overall the villain is super weak in Big Hero 6. And Civil War just, although that villain technically could be considered weak, they're successful in their mission. And really, the villain isn't what we watched that movie for. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to Civil War as well.
Yeah, see, this one, you made this one hard because I really liked both of those movies, but for totally different reasons. It's like apples and oranges. Like, I loved Big Hero 6 because it's a fun animated movie, and who doesn't love Baymax? And like, just, I mean, I don't know. I thought the characters were fun, and it was just a really, really fun story. And then you have Captain America: Civil War, which is probably one of my favorites. I just love Civil War. I just thought they did a good balancing act in Civil War. They brought in all these other heroes, but to me, it felt like it was still about Iron Man and Captain America and their argument. And I liked how I was on Iron Man's side at times and I was on Captain America's side at times. Sometimes I thought Tony was a jerk, so I was just on Captain America's side by pure default. But if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Civil War because I just really liked Civil War.
You've chosen wrong. All right. So, okay. All right. The next one is an interesting one. It's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 versus Batman Returns.
Now,
combo.
You may all be surprised, if those of you that know that I'm a big Batman fan. This is like an easy one for me. I would definitely go with Guardians of the Galaxy because I am not that big of a fan of Batman Returns. And I like the first Batman a lot. But the second one, it felt way too Tim Burton-y. In fact, when I was rewatching it, it felt like this feels like Edward Scissorhands, not Batman. Now, every time Batman's on screen and Catwoman's on screen, I'm enjoying it. But then when you put the Penguin on, I'm like, this is one of my least favorite villains, and I do not like Danny DeVito. So no. So
Penguin running for mayor doesn't
yeah,
doesn't do it for you or whatever.
Nah, it doesn't.
You didn't even like him biting off Christopher Walken's nose? That was amazing.
Well, actually, it wasn't Christopher Walken.
Oh, that's right. It was his aide.
It was that glasses wearing dude, whatever his name
Yes.
was. Not too
That's right.
glasses wearing people out there, but specific. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, and it disappointed me when I heard that Michael Keaton wanted to remove so much lines of dialogue from Batman because I wanted to hear him speak more. It's like, Michael, why would you do that? You need to be speaking more. I want more Batman talking. I want to hear more of your grubbly Christian Bale voice, even though he wasn't a thing back then. So yeah, I'll go with Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right.
Okay, so in this imaginary ranking, Guardians comes up right around mid-pack for me when it comes to Marvel films. I certainly enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun time, but I don't think I have quite the love that so many people have for Guardians of the Galaxy. A lot to do with that ending that just kind of really threw me for a loop, I guess. As for Batman Returns, I love Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman so much. So she is a big skewing factor, maybe. But I like the Tim Burton-y take on Batman. Personally, I like Danny DeVito as the Penguin. I think it's fun. I think this movie struck up a good balance for me between some campy, fun ridiculousness that I want, but also bringing it back to dark and more brooding and more of that Tim Burton whimsy. So my pick is going to be Batman Returns.
All right, because you get to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, and you this is a bracket that was horrible because I love both of these movies. I have such a childhood nostalgia and attachment to both those Tim Burton Batman movies, and I remember being so excited. I think this is the first sequel as a kid I was beyond excited to see, other than Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze. But this was something I was so excited to see, and then Guardians is just so good. Both these are so good. But if I had to give it, I think I'm going to give it to Guardians of the Galaxy because Guardians just was a really fun rock opera, had a really great mix of music and action, and all those characters were extremely fun.
All right, now we all know. The internet will know what you picked.
Be a little bit shocker of an upset there.
All right. So this next one is we have Spider-Man 2 from the Raimi trilogy versus Thor. That's our next bracket.
Okay. I probably would have answered this differently if I hadn't rewatched Spider-Man 2. Because I'm probably going to go with Spider-Man 2 because, golly, that movie is so well made. I mean, the first one, I love the first Spider-Man with Willem Dafoe and Tobey Maguire, but it's very simple in its plot. It's not really transcendence. I can't say the word, but transcendent. Think of Johnny Depp. Transcendent with its themes and everything, but the second one gives you so much more. I mean, Spider-Man struggling to should I be Spider-Man? Should I have this normal life? I mean, I love Mary Jane. I want my job. I want to go to school. All those themes were so beautifully told. And Thor was a very Kenneth Branagh movie where it's it's a redemption story. He's cocky, he's arrogant. He has to redeem himself by going to Earth and finding his humanity, even though he's not human. But yeah, I'd have to give the slight edge to Spider-Man 2, though.
I didn't have quite the struggle picking between these two films. Thor is my favorite Avengers member until Black Panther came on. Now it's moved over a little bit. But I love Thor. I think he's awesome. And the Thor movie is fun. I find myself actually defending it quite often because a lot of people like to rag on both of those Thor movies. And
The first one's awesome.
The first one is great. I love it.
A lot of people still they don't give that first Thor movie the
screw
credit
them.
it
Screw
deserves.
those haters.
I think it's a little underrated
I'm
as
joking.
well. I agree.
But again, kind of like with Deadpool, if we're gonna just base this even on just one scene, I mean that train sequence with Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2 is just amazing, and the whole film is just so strong. And I think it definitely deserves this first round victory. So I'm gonna give Spider-Man 2 my vote.
Awesome. I did not like that Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. And the only standout in that Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy is where he's stopping the train with his webs. That scene was amazing, period. So I have to give it to Thor because for one reason or another, the Sam Raimi trilogy just never connected with me.
Fair enough. Okay, good. I do think that Thor is a little underrated. Maybe it's just because I have a huge crush on Chris Hemsworth. So
Who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. All right.
I'm straight and I still have a crush on him.
Okay, so next we have an interesting one. We have The Dark Knight Rises versus Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So.
Okay. This is going to be the most interesting one all night, all day. I don't care what anybody says. The Dark Knight Rises is amazing. It is brilliant. It is fantastic. I like The Winter Soldier, but gosh dang it, people. The Dark Knight Rises is one of the most underappreciated, overly hated movie ever since. I can't think of anything because it's the only one. Golly, people, why do people hate this movie? Plot holes or not, every movie has plot holes. Any movie, The Avengers has plot holes. Almost every superhero movie has plot holes. But you know what? When you give us Bane, that iconic villain that is awesome in BA, and people are impersonating him for all ages, it's incredible. And the emotional journey of proving that The Dark Knight Rises. People complain about not having enough Batman in it. Well, this movie proved that it was a story of Bruce Wayne, the man, and not Batman. And the ending proved that. And I almost teared up at the end. I almost teared up. The Dark Knight Rises. I still love The Winter Soldier, though. It's my second favorite MCU movie. But The Dark Knight Rises. It's probably not going to win this, but I don't care. I just had to get that off my chest.
All right. Love it.
So I wasn't necessarily crying at the end. I was just like, wait a minute. But The Dark Knight Rises is fine. I don't necessarily hate it. I don't love it either. It just kind of was like, I think a big problem for The Dark Knight Rises, it was coming off of The Dark Knight, which, I mean, in all measures is like nearly a perfectly executed film for what it is. And this one was not on that same level. I just think it was trying too much. Like it fell into like that realm of superhero film for me, where it was trying to do too much. It was trying to go with all of these different plot things. And it balances those well. It didn't like completely collapse in and turn into a disaster, but it didn't rise to the level that I think Christopher Nolan was aiming for. Yeah. Whereas The Winter Soldier, I think, is a great film. And it is pretty much almost flawlessly executed. So I'm giving my vote to Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Man, Winter Soldier and Dark Knight Rises are both great. I am not a hater on Dark Knight Rises. I see all of its plot holes, and I also don't care about those plot holes because Dark Knight Rises was a fantastic story and a great story of Bruce Wayne, but so was Captain America: Winter Soldier. And that was just such an awesome movie. I mean, if the MCU was built up one direction, then all of a sudden you take this spy genre movie and you have this action-packed spy movie with superheroes in it. And can I just add this? A spy movie with amazing action sequences with a camera on a tripod. No shaky cam. You could actually see the action, which made it even more awesome. I'm gonna go with Winter Soldier. I mean, I gotta tell you, I am the biggest DC fan. I love DC. I love DC. Any chance I have to root for DC, I'm rooting for DC. But I love the MCU too. And Winter Soldier, I think, got more of a reaction out of me on the big screen, just because I think I was more on the edge of my seat from beginning to end of that. That was just a really, really good movie.
I knew that was going to happen, but no hope.
Well, you know what? Dark Knight Rises almost won. Like, I mean, up to the last minute, I was still deciding, and you put a compelling argument, and I have to say, Dark Knight Rises is brilliant. I agree with you. It's a great movie and a great ending to that trilogy.
I actually didn't watch it until, believe it or not, till last year, till last March.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
what did
never.
you think of it, Rachel?
I enjoyed it. There were parts that I liked, the sort of broader social commentary of it. Him taking care of Bane, kind of promising to take care of the people, and then and how like politically we can be manipulated in that way. I thought that was interesting. But I thought that we spent too long with Bruce in that he was watching things happen too much. He was in that dungeon, whatever it was called. Anyway, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I'm not as in love with Batman movies as most people, but they're fine. So the next one is two Titans. We have Avengers, the Avengers movie, and we have Superman, the movie.
Okay.
So there you go.
Again. I don't think I'm going to win this one either. And here's another controversial opinion here. I think the first Avengers is overrated. I like parts of it, but I think it takes way too long to get going. For me personally, I feel like the first 2 hours, they're standing around doing nothing. They're just whining and complaining to each other. But it has that fun flavor of Joss Whedon, and I like that. But the first Superman movie, I freaking love that movie. It makes me believe a man could fly, and I haven't felt this way about a movie ever. Well, that was the first movie I felt inspired and motivated, and the second movie to come around was Wonder Woman to make me feel those same emotions, and that is why I am going with Superman. It's the one that started it all. Well, kinda, depending whatever you think, if it was this or the 66 Batman, but Superman, it's incredible. I love it.
So I'm going to be a little bit biased, I think, in a couple of these, just because I don't connect to Superman as a character, like, at all. And that's weird coming from someone who really liked Wonder Woman. But he and Captain America for the MCU and the DC are definitely kind of near the bottom of my list on heroes. And Superman kind of lands there if I rank all of the heroes put together. He's kind of hard down there. So this is one that I had to rewatch because it had been quite some time since I had seen Superman. And it's a really fun movie. And I actually think that obviously it's a bit dated because it's so long ago, but it holds up very well, I think, to today. I didn't like the end again because it just felt like there's no stakes, and that's always my big problem with Superman. It's like we can get stakes, we can kind of manufacture them if we really put things into place. It's just like no stakes, we can literally do anything and bring people back from the dead. And I love the Avengers. I'm one of the people who just, especially taking in like theater experience, which unfortunately I can't do with Superman because I wasn't alive. That was one of the funnest theater experiences I think I've ever had. When the Avengers assembled, it was just like, whoa, this is awesome. So I'm going to choose the Avengers.
The Avengers is awesome. I loved every single character. I loved how Joss Whedon put all of these characters together on screen, and I loved his honesty where he's like, this is ridiculous, and these characters should not be on screen together. And he had fun with that. And so I could just feel that. I'm watching the Avengers, and every single character is fun. Everything about that movie is fun. All the action is fantastic. Avengers is amazing. That said, I cannot betray Superman the movie. And anytime Superman the movie is thrown in there, I can't not side with it. That was the movie that got me to love superheroes. It was the movie that got me to love Superman. And I'm one of those people that I found this connection with Superman. And the thing that I love about Superman is he could be a god among men. and power corrupts, but not Superman. For whatever reason, this is a guy who not through tragedy, not through the death of a family member, not through something horrible in his life did he become a superhero. He decided to become a superhero because he could, because he has that responsibility, because he has the abilities. So he has to. And to me, that's the amazing picture of somebody who could be a god, an untouchable, but willingly lays his life down. And Christopher Reeve's portrayal of that, his portrayal of Superman, was amazing. And he's the only actor I've ever seen who has portrayed Clark Kent differently than Superman and has made it believable Superman and Clark Kent are two different people, and it's not just a hiding behind the glasses. It's dated, and you're right. If you go to watch it, he turns the world backwards and he turns back time. So yeah, there's no stakes and no things like that. But at the same time, I connected to that movie as a child, and I also connected to Avengers. Like, these are two movies I connected to. This is another bracket where it's like I'm angry that it even exists. But I have to go with Superman the movie.
All right.
I will say this real quick. Superman would have been a perfect movie if not for the stupid turn back time thing.
Yes.
That's one thing that prevented me from, like, say, okay, that would be like a 10 out of 10. You take that out, I would have given it 10 out of 10. But because of that, it's like a 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. Had he had done super CPR, it would have been better than him turning back time.
Agreed.
I hear you. I feel like the beginning of Superman, the movie, is a little slow for me. Once we get introduced to Christopher Reeve, then I love it. I love the chemistry between him and Lois so much, and I think it's really good. But I don't know, for some reason, I'm just not as into that first hour of it. It feels a little slow to me. But I love the Avengers is still probably my second favorite comic book movie that I've ever seen.
So everybody,
I
Avengers
love it.
knocked out of the first round.
Yeah,
Can you believe it?
yeah, there you go. But
this is a controversial show, but
Yeah.
you had to put him up against Superman.
Hey, we like Marvel and DC. We're not
Yes,
haters.
I do. I love both.
We're not
I love
biased.
both.
Yeah.
It's just,
All right.
because I picked the DC movies doesn't mean I hate Marvel. It's just because I just like them just a little bit more. Not all of them, but some of them. Just the ones that have been matched up. Okay, sorry.
All right, we'll forgive you. Okay, so the next one we have up is Batman Begins versus X-Men 2. X2, I guess.
Oh, man. Like I said, I hate doing this. I really do hate doing this because I love X-Men 2 so much. But Batman Begins. I mean, that movie is like the perfect origin story. And like the first half of the movie, you don't even see Batman. It's all Bruce Wayne. Just him and Asia training with the League of Shadows, even though it's the League of Assassins in the comic books, but still, that first hour is amazing. The second half is kind of falls off compared to the first half for me. Man, I hate doing this to X-Men 2 because it's so good. I love Wolverine. I love Mystique. I love the Nightcrawler sequence in the beginning. But I got to give it to Batman Begins.
All right. So I enjoy Batman Begins. I think it's actually, like you said, I think especially the beginning, it's really, really solid. It's just a really well executed film. As pretty much anything Christopher Nolan has produced is a well executed, good piece of film. But I love X2. It is by far my favorite in the original X-Men trilogy. You mentioned that Nightcrawler sequence, and that just like blew me away when I watched it. I still think it is amazing. Just one of the best like opening sequences in any comic book film ever. Storm is my favorite superhero out of all of the superheroes in any of the properties. So just getting to see her do something, because unfortunately she sidelined quite a bit in these X-Men films. But just like the tornado dropping sky sequence was awesome. Just having her say, her just being like, do we have any weapons in this thing? And then her eyes go to white. I'm like, yes, Storm. But I love X2. So I enjoy Batman Begins, but my vote goes to X-Men 2.
I liked X2 a lot. And out of that original X-Men trilogy, X2 is my favorite. But that X-Men trilogy, like the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, it just didn't really connect with me that much. I mean, I could go through that whole trilogy and pick out things that I really liked, and out of all of them, X-Men 2 was probably my favorite one. But I didn't start connecting to X-Men movies until First Class. When it came to Batman Begins, I refused to see it because I didn't understand it was a reboot. I thought it was a prequel to that Tim Burton series, and Batman and Robin tanked that entire series, and I was just not willing to trust Batman Begins, and my cousin forced me to go. And when you go into a movie like that with expectations that low, I had tears streaming down my face because I couldn't believe it was as good as it was. And honestly, that effect kind of stays with me. I love that Nolan Batman trilogy, so I'm going with Batman Begins.
All right.
I'm sorry, X2. I love you. I love you. I mean, I have you right here. Don't.
I would pick X2 because I think what happens with Jean Grey and her sacrifice, like that moment, is so powerful and so moving, and I think it trumps personally anything that's in Batman Begins. But that's just me. All right, let's go. Okay, so the next one is in The Incredibles versus the Lego Batman movie.
Oh, this is a tough one.
Really?
I know it's not for you. But I can
kidding.
definitely say The Incredibles is the better movie, but I enjoy watching the Lego Batman movie more because not only is it a great Batman movie, and it's like the best Batman movie I've seen since 2012, it is also a great spoof movie.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna be objective here, and I will give it to The Incredibles. I didn't expect to give it to The Incredibles, but I'm gonna try to be objective here and give it to The Incredibles.
All right.
So I really liked the Lego Batman. It was in my top 5 favorite movies of the year for some time. It's recently been bumped out with spoiler alert. But yeah, I think it's a really fun movie. It's really funny. But I think The Incredibles is just a superior film on most levels. And like everyone likes to say, it's the only good Fantastic Four movie we've ever received. Thanks, Fox. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and give this one to The Incredibles.
Yeah, it's The Incredibles all the way for me. I watched Lego Batman for the first time last night, and I don't really have too much negative to say about Lego Batman, but if I'm holding it up to The Incredibles, it doesn't even stand a chance. The Incredibles is proven over time. It's a classic. It's so well told. The characters are amazing. If you saw my top 5 favorite Pixar films, it is my number 1 favorite Pixar movie. I love The Incredibles. My most anticipated Pixar sequel is The Incredibles. I'm also incredibly nervous because how can it be as good as the original?
Yeah, I hear you.
So you're saying that it's incredible?
Yeah, I'm saying it's incredible.
It's incredible. All right, terrible. So the next one we have is going to be probably pretty short because it's we have Batman 89, the first Batman, versus the Wolverine.
Okay. So. We'll make it as short as possible. I like the Wolverine. It does some good things, but also does some bad things. But Batman, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Never rubbed another man's rhubarb. I got to go with Batman.
Yep. The Wolverine was definitely an improvement on the Abomination that preceded it. And it's really solid for the first 2 acts until it devolves greatly. But I love the original Tim Burton Batman from 1989. I'm going with Batman.
Batman.
Yeah. All right.
I guess that's short.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of 89 Batman, but I get it. Okay. So the next one we have is Superman 2 versus the original Spider-Man.
Now, I'm going to judge this based on the theatrical release, not the Donner cut, because I feel like that's kind of cheating.
Okay.
I love the Donner cut.
I do too, but you can definitely tell, even though it's really good, the 75% that Richard Donner shot, it is kind of brought down a bit by the 25% that Richard Lester brought his flair to. And the first Spider-Man, I mean, I love Superman 2 with Zod and everything, but it's it feels more dated to me than the original Superman does. And the first Spider-Man, I mean, I love Green Goblin. I know people complain about his costume, say he's like a Power Ranger, but he's still to this day my favorite villain in probably any Marvel movie, honestly. Not just Sony or Fox, but like including the MCU. He is
more than Dr. Octopus? Really?
Oh, I love Dr. Octopus, don't get me wrong, but the Green Goblin is still to this day my favorite. So on that basis alone, I will give it to Spider-Man.
All right.
So I already talked about my slight anti-Superman bias. But I do really like Superman 2 quite a bit. I think it's really fun, really well made. Again, I think it holds up pretty well after all these years, but I definitely prefer Spider-Man. Those first 2 films in the Raimi trilogy I really enjoy. I mean, so I'm going to go ahead and vote for Spider-Man.
Just as like a spider, looks just like a bug.
So I'm definitely the black sheep here because I'm not going for Spider-Man. I really did not connect with that Raimi trilogy at all. And when I saw that original Spider-Man on the big screen, I was in high school. I went with all my friends. All of my friends walked out of that movie loving it and praising it, and I walked out of it going, that was the corniest thing I have ever seen. Like, I did not like the dialogue, and I know it's a comic book movie, but there I am as a teenager going, that was too comic booky. I mean, I get it. It's a comic book movie. I get it. But some of that just doesn't translate to screen. I mean, I was thinking that walking out of the theater. I just did not connect to that movie. So I'm going with Superman 2 because that one was supposed to be a little cheesy because it's from the 70s. And I loved it. So, yeah. And then I'm not counting the Donner cut, which the Donner cut would win hands down any day because the Donner cut is amazing. But the theatrical cut, I'm still going to give it to that over Spider-Man.
If only you could have finished it.
I'm with you because that's what I would pick. I'd pick Superman 2. All right, so
really?
Next, yeah, without a doubt in my mind. It's one of my favorite.
Oh, are you not a Spider-Man fan?
No, I like Spider-Man, but I do think that it becomes kind of Power Ranger, particularly at the end.
That actually kind of surprises me. I would definitely expect you to go Spider-Man.
Oh, no, I like Superman a lot. I like Superman more than Batman. I just don't like Man of Steel.
They're my both
because they tried to turn Superman into Batman. Okay, so all right. So next we have Doctor Strange versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1990, the first one.
This is easy for me. I love Ninja Turtles. I love it to death. I did not like Doctor Strange. I did not like it at all. I mean, people, you can hate me all you want for saying this, but Doctor Strange to me is a ripoff of Iron Man. I hate to say it. I know it's my favorite MCU movie, but Doctor Strange is like another poor man's version of that first Iron Man movie. I'm sorry. Don't hate me for it. Well, I guess you can if you want, but that first Ninja Turtles movie, I loved it. Cowabunga dudes. I loved April O'Neil. I loved all the Turtles. Shredder was incredible. It had this very 90s dark feel to it, but also felt very fun and campy at the same time. So I definitely got to go with Ninja Turtles.
So I enjoy Doctor Strange. I certainly am not on any sort of level of like hating it.
I don't hate it. I just like it as much as everybody else does.
I mean, again, it suffers from a really horrible villain, and it gets really with that villain near the end when we're introduced to the second one. And like a lot of the movies I've talked about, that's where it kind of loses me. Is once we get to that ending, I'm kind of like, what are we doing here? But up until then, I mean, any movie that's able to make, good old SJW Larry here overlook whitewashing has to do something all right. And Doctor Strange definitely at least put that to the back of my mind until this win. But I mean, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is like my childhood. I love that 1990 movie. So I'm definitely voting for the Turtles.
Cowabunga.
You made this hard, Rachel. You made it hard because I really enjoyed Doctor Strange.
Oh, I can see the confliction in you right now.
But I won't betray the Ninja Turtles. That was my most highly anticipated movie as a child. Even more, I anticipated that more than Batman. I had dreams about the Ninja Turtles, about what that movie would be like when I was a kid, and I could still remember some of those dreams. So I was in kindergarten. I saw that movie, and it lived up to every expectation I had, to the point that I am now 33 years old, and I can put in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990 movie, and still watch it and love it and get chills on that roof scene when they're fighting the Shredder. So Ninja Turtles wins.
It's really good. Like I think it totally holds up. You've got this dynamic of this young man who is there's like this sort of cult of personality around Shredder, and I think that's really interesting to see that kind of gang. How a gang kind of attracts people, and I it's really fun too, and I would have gone with that as well. All right, so next we have X-Men Days of Future Past versus Superman Returns.
All right, another easy clear-cut winner for
that's
me.
easy.
X-Men Days of Future Past is near perfect. I love that movie. It takes the blend of the old cast and the new cast. It makes it about Charles Xavier. People will complain about Wolverine being the face, but this is Charles Xavier's story, and bringing back Bryan Singer and John Ottman to direct and compose a score, it was really emotional, especially at the end. And Superman Returns, I mean, hearing the old John Williams score again, same team, same director and composer, but Superman Returns has a lot of issues, like a miscast Lois Lane. The plot the villains scheme is way more ridiculous than it was in the original Superman. So yeah, I definitely got to go with X-Men Days of Future Past.
Yeah, this one is of a tale of two completely different stories for me. I don't like Superman Returns like at all. And I absolutely love Days of Future Past. It's my favorite of the X-Men films, depending on how I categorize Logan. But I love it. It's a full team X-Men. Days of Future Past is great. It does time travel really well. Of course, like we said, all of these movies have some plot holes, and they're there. But I think it's a great movie and a wonderful return to form with the X-Men, to have two in a row that were actually good. So X-Men Days of Future Past gets my vote.
As far as I'm concerned, Superman Returns has but one redeeming factor, and that's that airplane scene where he catches the plane and he lands it in the baseball field. That was an awesome sequence. That is not enough for Superman Returns to get my vote. That movie failed for me on so many levels, and the biggest level was, why are you trying to continue that original series? It's done. Why are you doing that? So that's just one of many things that upset me about that movie. On the other side, X-Men Days of Future Past, I have nothing to complain about. That movie was freaking amazing on so many levels. Like, I can't even begin to count, so I won't. So I'll just tell you, Days of Future Past was the bomb.
Yeah, I don't hate Superman Returns as much as some, but I love X-Men Days of Future Past. It's one of my favorite comic book movies I've ever seen. So the next one we have is the Mask of the Phantasm versus Rise of the Guardians. Those two, I would say, underrated animated superhero movies, in my opinion.
It's another easy one for me. Rise of the Guardians, I think, is average. It's fine. It's okay. Don't hate me for that, Rachel. And then Mask of the Phantasm is like, before Batman Begins, it was the definition of a superhero origin story. So I would definitely give it to Mask of the Phantasm.
I enjoy Rise of the Guardians, but I do think that Mask of the Phantasm is just a better film that has stayed with me for longer, one that I want to revisit. Where Rise of the Guardians is just like that was nice. That was a nice movie, an unexpectedly nice movie. But my vote goes to Mask of the Phantasm.
Well, Rachel, you're going to have to judge whether I'm good for this one and if you're going to have to fill in, because I actually have not seen Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which is odd considering what a DC fan I am and how much I love Batman the Animated Series. But I love Batman the Animated Series. And if Phantasm carries even a little bit of that magic, then I know Phantasm is amazing, and I would still give it to Rise of the Guardians. But Rachel, I'm leaving that judgment up to you.
Well, wait, it's decided anyway, 2 out of 3. But I would also go with Mask of the Phantasm. It's my favorite Batman movie. I genuinely think it's better than The Dark Knight. You can hate me, but that's my opinion. I think that you get into Batman's character, and he has to make a sacrifice in a way that you just never see in any of the other films. I think you get an amazing Joker with Mark Hamill. You get all. I think the score is amazing. I love it. I think it's great. So but I also love Rise of the Guardians. I wanted to have it in here because I do think it's underrated. I think it's kind of like Avengers, but for kids. Using all the heroes of childhood. You've got your Santa Claus and I just really like it. So I wanted to include it on the list, but I would also go with Mask of the Phantasm because
I like Santa having naughty and nice tattooed on his arms. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. And so I love it visually. I love the animation in there, and I think it has a nice heart. Yeah, good voice work. I really wish that we'd gotten as opposed to Boss Baby and stuff like that. I wish we'd gotten more movies like Rise of the Guardians from DreamWorks. So anyway. All right. So next we have 2 indies, kind of indie-ish kind of films. We have Chronicle versus Unbreakable.
Now this is a little bit more challenging, but I think for the fact that Unbreakable is not found footage, I probably would give it to that. Even though Chronicle is like the only found footage movie out there that I like, I think it's very well made. It's everything that Anakin Skywalker should have been and that he wasn't. But Unbreakable, though, it didn't even feel like a superhero movie because it's really not. I mean, it's just they don't even treat it like, oh, he's a superhero. Like, no, he's just super strong. And this bad guy, he's just a terrorist. So I would give it to Unbreakable.
Yeah, so I actually had rewatched Unbreakable recently before this because, split. And I just forgot how much I really like that movie. It's such a well-made, good film, and it's nice to see M. Night Shyamalan when he was back in like his first heydays, having a little resurgence the last couple films, but when he was actually in like innovative filmmaking and like pushing himself as a filmmaker. So I love Unbreakable. I also really enjoy Chronicle. I agree with you. It's one of the only found footage films that I can stand to even watch and not like want to just. But I definitely would go with Unbreakable here. I think it's a better film.
It's Unbreakable all the way for me. I agree with you guys, both of you, in that Chronicle is the one and only found footage film that I can really stomach. I'm not a fan of that whole genre, but Chronicle was really, really interesting. But Unbreakable, man. Unfreaking breakable. Gosh. I mean, do I need to say any more? It's unbreakable. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so next we have Avengers Age of Ultron versus Batman Forever.
All right, well, this is another clear-cut winner. Batman Forever, I rewatched it, and it is hard to get through. I mean, the ending it's kind of tolerable, but this is, okay, I'm probably the only one of the few people that think this. I think the Avengers sequel, Age of Ultron, is way better than the first one. I enjoy it way more than the first
better,
one.
huh?
Yes.
Wow.
You know what? I'm going to second you on that. I enjoyed Age of Ultron way more than the first one.
Because why? I think it gave us more of what we wanted. I think there was less standing around, and they actually do something in the opening scene, which I feel like I said earlier, I feel like there's too much standing around in the first one, where this one, no, they're actually doing stuff. Not necessarily action, but they're doing things. And I think even though Ultron wasn't a great villain, he was fun. He was a fun villain. He's definitely not one of the worst villains, like, say, Baron Zemo, depending on who you are. I think Baron Zemo was terrible, but I think Ultron was a very fun villain. And Batman Forever, it's just like Tommy Lee Jones, he's not even Two-Face. He's just the Joker. Jim Carrey's not the Riddler. He's Jim Carrey. What the heck's Nicole Kidman, a love interest? And Bruce Wayne saying, "I've never loved anybody before like I love her," or like, "Oh, okay, what happened to Vicky Vale or Catwoman? You didn't love them either." So
Yep.
yeah, Age of Ultron, 10 times out of 10.
So I'm definitely not on that Age of Ultron being better than the original train that was just
Come to the dark
expressed.
side.
But I enjoyed Age of Ultron. Everybody, yeah, I felt like I was in like a little bit of a defense mode after Age of Ultron came out because I thought it got very unfairly maligned upon release. I think people loved it, and then it came down into like, wait a minute, this is nowhere goes good, or blah, blah, blah. So I agree that it was very much unfairly judged. As for Batman Forever, I liked Val Kilmer in the film well enough. I think as a kid, I loved Jim Carrey as the Riddler. I just want to say that. I loved that villain as a child. I think it's a perfectly fun movie, even upon rewatch. I think I have a special nostalgia place for it, as well as even something like Batman and Robin, I know, I think is one of the more fun and watchable of the bad superhero movies. So people can put it as the worst all they want. I don't think it's the worst. But I think Age of Ultron is a much better film, and I do agree that it deserved more credit. So I'm gonna go with Age of Ultron.
As a kid, I didn't know you could replace an actor like, Bruce Wayne. And so when I saw this movie, it's like, where's Batman? there are things that I enjoy about Batman Forever, but I also haven't watched Batman Forever since I was a teenager. I do remember Jim Carrey. I actually enjoyed him as the Riddler. He was the best part of that, but that shows you how bad it was that he shined as the best part. And then you had Two-Face, who was, it's Tommy Lee Jones. How could he do a performance that bad? I feel like all he did was he went back to the 1989 Batman and said, let me do my best impersonation of the Joker. And then we come over here.
Too.
Yeah. Then we go over here to Avengers Age of Ultron, which I agree with you. I enjoyed it better than the first Avengers. I had a lot of fun with it. The only thing I was disappointed about with Age of Ultron was the trailers made Ultron look really creepy, scary. Yes. And he was more light and funny. But once I kind of got used to the idea, I was okay with it. It's not like it was a bad choice, and it wasn't the movie's fault. It was the advertising's fault that wasn't as good. And so once I was able to kind of maybe set that aside and just enjoy the movie for what it was, I did enjoy it better than the first one. And so Age of Ultron wins without even the slightest bit of competition or question or doubt in my mind.
I have this one last thing to say. If Batman Forever had Val Kilmer say this one line, I would have picked it over Age of Ultron. If he would have said, I'll be your Huckleberry, I would have picked it. Bring it back, Tombstone.
Yeah, I think it's so weird with Batman, with the Schumacher films, because they were evidently made at least partially to sell toys, or that was a big emphasis on the films. But there's a lot of like eroticism, and there's a lot of weird, like, I don't think they're particularly
and firm butts.
Yeah, like I was debating about talking about one of them for family movie night, and I really couldn't, like, because I was trying to find I ended up doing 66 Batman for family movie night back last year before Batman v Superman, and I thought about doing Batman Forever, and then I watched it and I'm like, no, I can't. And so anyway, all right. The next one is Logan versus Blade, two I have not seen. So
this is how I would describe it. It's like you take this nice little basketball team that is average, that wins every once in a while, and then you put them up against like a Michael Jordan-led basketball team, and that is Logan. Blade, I love you. You're good, but Logan is just so freaking good. I mean, grown men will cry during Logan.
I did.
Let's be honest.
I don't know.
There are a lot of grown men crying in superhero movies. That's not a high bar to set, I think.
Well, I've only cried during two, and that was Logan and The Dark Knight Rises. Well, actually, no. Make it three. Wonder Woman. So, yeah. I'm sorry, Blade. You're cool. I like Wesley Snipes. He's a great Blade. But, Logan, it's the conclusion of a 17-year-long journey. It's got to be Logan.
Yeah, so I think if if Blade had been paired up against some of the other films in this bracket, I would have voted for Blade because I actually really like it. I think it's a really solid movie. Wesley Snipes is completely BA in the film. So I appreciated the film. I think it's awesome. But Logan is just such a great piece of filmmaking, just in general. I think if you put this in other brackets, a drama, like a westerny type stuff, in so many other type of films, it would still fare very, very well. And like you said, it hits you right where it hurts. It is like not maybe the most fun watching experience, but I went back for the tortures over and over in the theaters and saw it 3 times. So I love Logan. I think it's a really amazing film. So Logan, it wasn't really that close. Sorry, Blade.
I actually agree that if Blade was in a different bracket, it probably could have won, because Blade is not a bad movie. It's not a bad franchise, but when you put it up to Logan, Logan's going to win. I cried in Logan. I did. Because it was the end of that 17-year journey, because it was how they ended that 17-year journey, and it was that amazing performance from Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman. It was on so many levels, and Logan is a movie that usually I'm not that interested in. I like things that have a lot more action, that have a lot more going on, and this one definitely was more of a slow burn. Let's tell the story. It's a sad story. It's the end of their lives, so it's not typically a type of movie that I would get into. So the fact that this is not my typical style movie, and it sucked me in from beginning to end, and I wept. Yeah.
Plus,
Nice.
I think you mentioned it. Patrick Stewart, personally, is still the best acting performance of 2017 for me.
Oh, yeah.
So, and one of the best acting performances in a comic book film. So,
Yeah,
Ever since
I
Heath
agree.
Ledger.
Nice.
Yeah, Heath Ledger was amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, we can all agree. Heath Ledger was great. Okay, so the next tournament we have is the Amazing Spider-Man versus the Rocketeer.
Okay, I may be in the minority on this one. I like both movies. I really like Amazing Spider-Man. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I haven't seen Spider-Man Homecoming yet. My opinion may change, but I still believe that Andrew Garfield is the best interpretation we've had as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. He is just, golly, there's something about Andrew Garfield that he just makes you feel his pain, especially in the first one. Losing or not having his parents around, knowing they're gone, and then to lose Captain Stacy at the end and his uncle early in the movie. It's like I felt his pain, whereas like, say, Tobey Maguire, like it just seemed like, he was just crying all the time, but like I feel this man's pain. I feel this kid's pain of losing people he cares about. Rocketeer is like a very fun movie. I like the time setting. Timothy Dalton is a great villain. I just feel like Andrew Garfield as the main hero is more interesting and compelling to me than the main hero of the Rocketeer. I don't even remember his name. What was it? Cliff or Criff or I don't know.
Cliff.
But I like the Rocketeer. I watched it last night. It was really good. But Amazing Spider-Man, I think it's awesome.
So The Rocketeer was actually the only film in this entire bracket that I had not seen. So I also watched it last night in preparation for today. It was a nice, pleasant, like perfectly mid-90s movie. Like it felt like a not big blockbuster, not small film, a nice family 90s film. That's what I got with The Rocketeer, which I think, as we saw last year with Peach Dragon, we can do a lot more of these days. I think with that genre and that like forgotten land in the middle there, it has such a value in the marketplace. But while watching it, I also thought something like Superman ages better than something like The Rocketeer. I don't know that I thought it necessarily aged as well as some of the earlier works that even are older than it. And I also really like The Amazing Spider-Man. I know that the Lizard is not necessarily a wonderful villain, and it's kind of it was a very strange choice for a villain to kick off this new franchise. But I agree with you. Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man, maybe for multiple reasons. But I love Andrew Garfield. I love his connection with Emma Stone. And I think that was a very solid first entry. If only they hadn't just like completely botched the sequel, maybe we could have gotten something out of that. So my vote is for The Amazing Spider-Man.
I had fun with the Rocketeer as a kid, but I even remember being a kid and going, yeah, the movie's okay. And that was just kind of my reaction as a child. And then The Amazing Spider-Man, I actually did like that franchise. I did. I mean, where a lot of people hate Amazing Spider-Man 2, I still liked Amazing Spider-Man 2. Not as much as the first one, but I liked it. Like, there were still enough scenes that were well constructed in that movie and had good emotional points that I enjoyed it, but we're on the first one. Okay, so the first one, yeah, it wins. Yeah, I liked the first one. It was great. I connected with it. I liked Andrew Garfield, so that one wins.
I forgot to mention Emma Stone, too. I love her.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Stacey.
Yeah,
Rachel's just sitting there so sad.
Yeah, Rachel seems... And,
you've chosen wrong.
Hey, Rocketeer's better than Up, Rachel.
Oh.
All right. So the next one is the Captain America First Avenger, another Joe Johnston film, I oddly enough, and then versus the Man of Steel.
All right. I know I'm definitely going to be outvoted on this one. Everybody, I hate the First Avenger. I really hate this movie. Like, this is looking on this list. Yeah, it's the only movie on this list that I flat out hate.
Oh.
I do not like it. I think it misrepresents Captain America in every way possible. I never got the true sense of who the character was. Thankfully, The Winter Soldier came out. The romance is awful. I think Hugo Weaving is horribly miscast as a Red Skull. The movie's tone feels very inconsistent. It changes from the first half to the second half. I'm sorry. I hate it. I can't stand it. Tommy Lee Jones is the only thing I like about the movie. Unlike Batman Forever, which I did not like him in. Now, more controversy. I freaking love Man of Steel. It is. There's more controversy. I think it's the best Superman movie we've ever had.
I'm sad that that's controversy.
Oh.
It is controversy. I'm sorry, everybody. A movie that everybody probably loves that I hate, a movie that a lot of people don't like that I love. But I just love Man of Steel. I love the themes. I love how Superman is struggling to find his place in this very dark and grim world. I know a lot of people think that's too much like Batman, but I think it definitely fits this modern day setting that we all live in now. So I think Henry Cavill is perfect as Clark Kent and Superman. I will not say he's better than Christopher Reeve yet. We need to probably see him in a few more movies to probably say that. But I think once that happens, I'll probably feel comfortable saying that. And Amy Adams, she is my favorite interpretation of Lois Lane, more than Margot Kidder, or especially more than Kate Bosworth. And I think
I love Erica Durance. I still have a little bit of a crush on her. Don't tell my wife.
Was she in Smallville?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not that far in Smallville yet. I'm still in season 3, but we'll see what happens. And I think General Zod is by far the best villain we've had in the DCEU. I think he is a very layered villain, and I love Man of Steel. You can hate me for it, people, but I love it. So yeah, Man of Steel for sure.
Let's see.
Yeah, no.
Larry.
I don't love
approval.
I don't love either of these films, actually. Like, neither of them are on love status. With Man of Steel, I think, especially I just rewatched the first Superman, I think that they accomplish making Superman a little bit conflicted in that film so much better. Like, I feel like they show him being like, I want to do these things. I'm so powerful. Why do I have to be stopped? And then Man of Steel, I think, just betrayed its characters from, like, Martha and the father, all of them. Like, it just seems so ridiculous to have his dad say, like, oh, let those people die. Let those people die to keep your identity. That line in particular kills me, that I'm like, that's what? No, that's a betrayal to the character, to Superman, a character that I don't even connect with. And then, I don't know, they went too far in this, like, dark and broodingness for me personally. It felt like Zack Snyder doing his best to be Christopher Nolan and coming up short on most every aspect Plus, I am in agreement that last battle scene is just ridiculous. The IHOP, all of it, just that whole town, I just find too much. Like, that product placement is one of the worst product placements I can name in cinematic history, in my opinion.
At least we didn't have any Bud Light.
This is very well, yeah. I mean, Transformers are their completely own thing. And then Captain America is fun. I think that they knew the tone they wanted to go for. They went straight for that tone. I completely disagree with the romance. I love Peggy Carter, and I think her and Steve are wonderful. The Red Skull's fine, and don't get me started on Amy Adams as Lois Lane, because oh my gosh, I can't. I can't. I'm sorry. I know I love Amy Adams. In almost everything else she does, I love Amy Adams. But especially when we get into Batman v Superman in particular, oh my gosh,
that's a different
Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Lois Lane's portrayal is just horrible. Sorry. Anyway, my vote goes to Captain America.
Larry, you're speaking my language here. I'm so glad because I know what Chris is going to say.
Well, I gotta take a moment and go back and defend that Jonathan Kent moment where he said you should have let them all die to protect your secret.
Yeah.
I get that is cold. I do. But I think what we're supposed to see there, and maybe they could have portrayed it better, but here's what I think you were supposed to see. If you dig into some of the Superman comics, especially if you go to Superman Earth 1 and you go into that comic, what you have is a Martha Kent who's more excited about seeing Superman be shared with the world and coming out to be a hero, but wanting him to have another identity so he could, live life as a normal person still. But you have Jonathan Kent in that who is very conflicted about his son being known to the world. What's that going to do for his son? What's that going to do for the world? Like, even in that comic book, you get to see that in Jonathan Kent. And I kind of liked seeing this Jonathan Kent like that. I feel like we're seeing a Jonathan Kent that's a little bit afraid, and he is sadly instilling some of that fear into his son. And what I liked about Man of Steel, when I'm going to leave Batman v Superman out of this, because there's a lot more we're going to agree on with the character of Superman and Batman vs Superman than in Man of Steel. But in Man of Steel, I loved his search to find his place in this world. In Superman the Animated Series, he's beating up Darkseid, and he has this scene where he's like, I live in a world full of cardboard, and I'm constantly afraid to open up. But when he sees Darkseid, he looks at him and goes, but on you, I'm letting it all out, and he starts pounding that guy. I feel like in Man of Steel, we get to see that all kind of kinked up in him, where he's just like, he has all this power, all this ability, but he has to be careful about shaking somebody's hand because he can shatter it. He has to be careful when he gives somebody a hug because what if he kills them? I mean, I feel like in this Superman, we're seeing a guy who really does not belong to this world. He's truly in it, and he's not of it. So all of us are struggling to find our place in the world, but now even more so is Kal-El because he's really alien, and he feels that. And then when he meets Jor-El and he begins to understand who he is and where he comes from, we see him lighten up a bit, and then we see the weight come back on because now he has to make a choice with Zod because now the world is held hostage. And so watching his character growth in that movie, I didn't mind him brooding so much in this particular version because this is the version of him trying to find that place. When we get to BVS, that's where I'm upset that he's brooding still. It's like, no, dude, you're Superman, okay? You've stepped into the light. Be the light. Man of Steel is different. But First Avenger, I loved it. It was a great movie, but I thought it was the weakest in Phase 1, and it is definitely the weakest of the Captain America movies. So I'd give it to Man of Steel.
Preach it, Chris. Preach it.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say just one thing. So the thing is what I resent the most about this DCU Superman is I feel like it is a consistent attempt for Superman to be ashamed of who he is and what he represents and what his powers are. That he should be almost embarrassed by it, that he should hide it. And I just don't think in this day and age we should have a major storyline with a character who has to be ashamed of who they are. And I just, that really annoys me. Yeah. And I just think I think it is a boring slog. I just watch it and I'm like, oh, when will it end? It's so boring.
Yeah.
So I don't
that being a shame thing, I see that more in BVS than I do in Man of Steel. I see Man of Steel, this is before he steps out.
His father wants him to hide who he is.
Well, yes, and I get that, but I like him facing that conflict. I like that this is his conflict and what he chooses by the end.
And also, as a father, I mean, you're afraid that your son's going to be crucified by the world. I mean, if I was a father, I'd be like, I'm afraid for my son's life. I don't want people to judge and crucify this guy just because he's different. That's how I see it.
And he wasn't just different. Like, on the level we humans can be different from each other, he wasn't just different. He was, I mean, he could stare at you and burn you to a crisp.
He could kill you in like a split second.
All right, we could probably have a whole we should have a whole podcast about it sometime.
We definitely could.
All right, so the next one is X-Men First Class versus Iron Man 3. These are actually both movies I don't personally care for. So we'll see what y'all have to say.
Well, it's not too easy, just a little bit. I like X-Men First Class. I don't love it to a certain extent like everybody else does. I still think X2 and X1 and Days of Future Past are superior X-Men movies, but I love Michael Fassbender's Magneto. I like McAvoy as Professor X, but Michael Fassbender brings such a depth to the character of Magneto that it's so amazing. The kids and the younger mutants irritate the crap out of me. But, Kevin Bacon. I love Kevin Bacon. Having him as the villain, I wanted to see him dance one time. Not really, but I love X First Class. Iron Man 3, it was good the first hour, and then the twist irritated the crap out of me. And, I love Shane Black, but Shane Black, you went. It was kind of like Batman Returns for me, like where it's not horrible, but it could have been better. So I'll give it to X-Men First Class.
I'm actually right there with you, David, when it comes to the X-Men films. I prefer the first two X-Men and Days of Future Past to First Class. And I know a lot of people really have this like super high on their X-Men list. And I also, I don't know why the X-Men movies can't do Emma Frost right either. I don't know. Every time they try to introduce her, it's just a disaster. And she was horrible in this movie too. But it was like a reboot to a franchise I really wanted to see get back up, and it was a solid movie. Yes, it saved the franchise. It was a really good, well-crafted film. It was coherent, and it did exactly what it needed to do, and I had a good time with it. I had fun with it. As for Iron Man 3, I'm not on the Iron Man 3 hate train. I think it is certainly better than the second Iron Man, and there's a lot of fun to be had in Iron Man 3. The kid gets a little bit grating to me, and then, as you said, once we get into that final act, it gets a little bit too much after the twist. We start going into kind of weird places, and then having pepper pots. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just vote for First Class.
Yeah, my vote is for First Class, and I like both movies. I really do. I like First Class better. Here's what would have won my vote for Iron Man 3. Had Ben Kingsley been the Mandarin and not Trevor.
Yes.
Yeah.
His characterization of the Mandarin was amazing from the trailers on through the first half of the movie. So when the twist came, and keep in mind, I've never read an Iron Man comic, so I didn't know anything about the Mandarin. I still found that twist disappointing because I just loved that character, the Mandarin, and to find that it wasn't that. So, and then it was just that bland guy who
that's the thing. That's what it's not just that there was the twist, it's that it was replaced by another man in a suit. Like, how many Marvel movies can they have the bad guy in a suit? Like,
that's where I'm at with it.
Fire.
Yeah, he breathes fire.
So X-Men First Class, I just don't like how they sexualize the characters and how I feel like they tried to make it into Matthew Vaughn style they tried to make it into sort of a James Bondy kind of I just don't like that personally.
And I'm not a fan of Rose Byrne, so don't hate me for that.
Oh, I love Rose Byrne.
So yeah, I don't really like either of those movies.
And
but
don't forget that you're mutant and proud.
But I know a lot of people do, and they seem somewhat similar in tone, so I put them together. All right, so the next one is Ant-Man versus Sky High.
All right, I'll try to make this as quick as possible. Ant-Man, I don't love it like everybody else does. I mean, there was a phase there after Age of Ultron where there was 3 Marvel movies in a row that I was not a fan of. Ant-Man was one of them, much like Doctor Strange. and Civil War. Ant-Man, it felt. I mean, Michael Pena. I could not stand Michael Pena. I know a lot of people thought he was funny, but he felt like a Michael Bay character. That's how much I didn't like that character.
Oh.
He felt so over the top and obnoxious. Like, oh yeah, I think my friend got deported. My dog died, but at least I got to keep the car. I'm like, is that supposed to make me laugh?
I think his mom died too.
Oh yeah, like all my family died and this guy got deported, but I gotta keep the car. It's all about the car. Chicks dig the car. But anyways, I thought Corey Stoll was wasted, and it didn't. It was like a heist movie, but it was like, oh, the world's at stake again. This army of yellow jackets will destroy the world. Like that's cool. But Michael Douglas was incredible in that movie. I will not knock him for that. And it's not, I don't hate it. It's one of the lower end Marvel movies for me, but Sky High, I kind of like it. I mean, I'll give it the slight edge over Ant-Man because Kurt Russell, it's not his best superhero movie. But yeah, I'll give it to Sky High, just barely.
Yeah, these are kind of two fine, pleasant movies for me. I think Ant-Man is fine. I had some problems, definitely, again, with the villain. Unfortunate thing with Marvel is that it is true their villains just aren't very good over and over and over again. And it was fine. I also didn't love it. I probably rank in the bottom half of this imaginary Marvel ranking I have going on today. And then Sky High also was fine. It's fun. It was a new little take on something. So they're both kind of new takes because this was a little bit different from Marvel in other aspects. So I'll go ahead and give it Ant-Man to make it interesting. They're both about on the same level. I think maybe I do like Ant-Man a little bit more, but yeah, I'll give it to Ant-Man.
I think I know where this is going, though.
Oh, fun. So I only watched Sky High the other day to get prepared for this. And okay, so I have to talk about expectations. So for Ant-Man, I went in with very low expectations. I've never liked the character Ant-Man. I never thought it was that great of a character. And so it's just like, okay, well, whatever. It's Marvel. They've earned the right to take my money, so I will be there. And my expectations were so low, I actually enjoyed it probably more than most people because what I was expecting from it was almost nothing, and I got more than I expected. And then I went into Sky High, and I was expecting nothing from that movie, and I got nothing from that movie. And it's not that it's all bad. It's not. It's just it's a movie that I hadn't really wanted to see, and so my expectations were low, and I didn't get anything above what my expectations were. Didn't hate it, didn't love it, kind of just in the middle. But Ant-Man, I had low expectations, and I got more than what I expected, so it's Ant-Man.
All right. Okay. No underdogs.
Well, there's a few, depending on how you look on it.
Yeah, I guess.
I think my answer was a non-biased, good reasoning as to why I picked Ant-Man.
Hey, whatever reason you have, it's fine. You have your reason. Okay, so next we have the X-Men, the first X-Men movie, versus the Incredible Hulk.
All right, I'll make this quick as possible. I like the first X-Men. Incredible Hulk, I think it's average, so I'll give it to X-Men.
Oh, awesome.
I love the first X-Men, cheesy storyline and all about electrocuting Toad, and the Incredible Hulk was just there. So X-Men.
Sounds good.
I think they were both very mediocre, but I had more fun with Hulk, so I'm the black sheep.
Sounds good. All right, next we have Batman v Superman versus The Crow.
Okay. I should be picking Batman v Superman. I should be picking it. I watched this movie countless times because every time I go in to watch it, I expect to have a life-changing experience, to change my mind and love the movie. But every time I do it, I am utterly disappointed and my heart is broken again. It's not the worst movie in the world. I don't think it deserves a 27% of Rotten Tomatoes, but I think it deserves like right in the 5 or 6 range. And it should have been a 10 out of 10. It should have been the best movie in the world with the 2 most iconic superheroes of all time fighting it out, when really Batman's just pissed off at Superman for 8 minutes. And The Crow is incredible, so I will give it to The Crow.
So I actually watched The Crow when I was like under 10 years old. And I don't know why
Wow.
I was like watching The Crow as this small child. But The Poltergeist also was like my favorite movie when I was like 4 years old, 3.
Good Lord.
So, you know, that's the kind of
Traumatizing.
messed up childhood I guess I had. But I love The Crow. I think it is a great movie. I love the character. It was doing dark when they were doing that, like, again, they have this weird dark undertone in the 90s with the 80s and 90s with these superhero movies. And I think it's close maybe between The Crow and Blade. But I would probably give the edge to The Crow in like these kind of darker, cool superhero movies. I really enjoyed that film. But as we talked about a little bit in my Man of Steel coverage there, I have major problems with the Batman v Superman. I much prefer Man of Steel, and we heard how I talked about that just a moment ago to this Batman v Superman. Lois Lane is so bad. Like, she was insufferable to me in Batman v Superman. I was just like, oh my gosh, someone throw her in a room and lock that door. Like, do not let her anywhere. Like, stop, Lois. What are you doing?
She's not helped by the script.
She's tripping to go find the spear.
Well, no, I mean, the script is terrible. I mean, the Martha thing has been skewered ad nauseum, deservedly so. Wonder Woman was by far my favorite part of Batman v Superman, and she has like 2 minutes worth of screen time, 3 maybe. So that kind of just tells you. I thought the score was good and it introduced us to her awesome theme. So there's that for Batman v Superman. But definitely The Crow gets my vote.
Why did you say that name?
Okay, so that's good. The Crow's already won because I haven't seen The Crow. And growing up, like when it was coming out and stuff, and I seen the previews and the trailers, and I was hearing all the behind-the-scenes stuff about Brandon Lee and how he died on that and all that, like all the advertising couldn't get me to go see it, and I never saw it. And I still couldn't bring myself to watch it. Like, I brought myself to watch Sky High for this, but I couldn't bring myself to watch The Crow.
Sky High is awesome.
The magic of Disney. It's the magic of Disney.
You were privileged to get to watch Sky High.
But I think I liked Batman vs. Superman more than most. And when I say that, I don't hate it as much as everybody else hates it. That said, it is definitely not my favorite movie, and I do not like that Superman was so depressed from beginning to end. And what I liked about the movie Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman was everything Superman is supposed to be. And they did it far better than they have in these last 2 Superman movies, and her character was amazing, and that movie was amazing. So my pick is nothing. I picked nothing for this round.
Okay, sounds good.
Because Crow already won, so I don't have to pick anything.
Pick the C option, whatever the C option is. Volunteer, substitution, Batman and Robin.
All right, so this last one of this round is Wonder Woman versus Hancock.
And yet another easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was easy. Yeah.
Much like
it's
what
easy.
you said, Wonder Woman, like I said earlier, it's everything that Superman should have been in BVS, and it is the first movie ever since the first Superman to inspire and to just motivate and just rise above and do the best you can for whatever the situation may be. I mean, see the best humanity, fight for the best humanity, because even though the evil Germans, not Nazis, because they were Germans in this movie, like, fight against the evil of humanity for the better of humanity. Because really what I love about Wonder Woman is that Ares is kind of like the bad guy, but the real villain of the movie is humanity.
And
And also, and war. And also, the hero of the movie is the best humanity, which is what Wonder Woman represents. And Hancock, it's not a bad movie, but I don't think it's a great movie. It's one of those movies where like, oh yeah, I enjoyed watching that. I mean, Will Smith was charismatic, and Charlize Theron is like awesome all the time. But you know, Wonder Woman, I've seen it 4 times. The only movie I've seen more times in the theater was The Force Awakens. So, Wonder Woman. By far. I mean, I could talk about it for hours, but for the sake of time.
Yeah.
All right. So I like Hancock. It's a fun movie, a fun little twist on superhero movies. It's fine. But I mean, clearly I'm just this is a very easy choice. I absolutely love Wonder Woman. And we were talking earlier, and I referred to like the Nightcrawler scene in X2 and that train sequence in Spider-Man 2 as some of the best moments in comic book history. Wonder Woman and that No Man's Land scene, just can't even explain the like feeling and the reaction I had to that scene in the movie theater. It was so amazing and such an impactful moment for me sitting there in the movie theater. But everything from Themyscira was amazing. Wonder Woman as a character was just so inspiring. And as I also noted, Captain America and Superman don't really do it for me, and they are kind of like the straight-laced, all good all the time type characters. But this film was able to inspire me and endear me into a character that generally is all good all the time. Wonder Woman, she doesn't do much bad, and she doesn't go into that dark and brooding space of Batman, and that's kind of where I live most of the time. But they inspired me to her so amazingly well. So Wonder Woman is my vote, hands down.
Forgetting about evil Superman in Superman 3.
Oh, gosh.
Can
we go on forgetting that?
I do my best to forget.
My favorite part of Superman 3 was when Clark Kent was fighting evil Superman. Other than that, it's just terrible.
It's terrible. But no, yeah. So what about you, Chris?
Well, when you said Wonder Woman, the second title didn't even matter. Wonder Woman had already won. And first off, I got to say, I've been to Themyscira. That's exciting. Like, I'm watching this movie, and when they were showing that white coastline at Themyscira, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been there. That's Cathedral Cove in New Zealand. I've walked on that beach. I've been to Themyscira. I found that island. I've been there. Those women weren't there. But yeah, say what?
You didn't find Diana?
No, I did not find Diana. That was
a bunch of bull crap then.
Yeah, that was highly disappointing. Anyway. So, but Wonder Woman was just great. I think my favorite thing about Wonder Woman, first off, the musical score was amazing.
Yes.
That was awesome. The other part that was amazing was just her character, because no matter where she went, when somebody was in trouble, she didn't just want to help them. She was desperate to help them. And then that scene where she stepped out of the trenches and took that gunfire in No Man's Land, I mean, it was just the best scene. And it was the best scene because, like, I mean, holy cow. She inspired the troops. These were troops that were down. They thought they were never going to take this land. They had no hope. And when she stepped out on the field in that costume, they all rose up, man. They got hope. And I was just like, that's what all superhero movies are supposed to be, right? I mean, other than the dark and brooding ones. But, like, isn't that what heroes are supposed to do? Inspire us like that? So I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, even the dark and brooding ones should still actually inspire us in some way.
Also, to the extent that Batman, at least to the Dark Knight trilogy, is like his whole goal was to inspire people to look at Batman as a symbol, that Batman could be anybody. So I would definitely say even the dark, like you're saying, Rachel, the dark and brooding ones, even they can inspire hope. And my favorite superhero movies are definitely the ones that inspire me and that make me feel an emotional experience, like Wonder Woman, or like some of the Batman movies, or some of the Superman movies even.
Even when she brooded, when she had that moment of disillusionment, it was still inspiring because we got to watch how she handled disillusionment. We got to watch how she chose what she was going to believe and how she chose what she was going to do, which even made her one moment in this film of brooding, her one moment of disillusionment, also inspiring.
It was devastating. I mean, I've seen it 3 times, and each time I saw it, I was sobbing. I'm not kidding. I'm exaggerating at all. You can ask my brother. He saw it. It just really connected with me emotionally in a way that a blockbuster honestly hasn't in a long time. And I just thought it was so moving to see a person come to terms with the reality of war and the reality of human nature to justify war and justify evil. And to me, it was almost like it felt almost biblical to me in a way. You know, that I don't know. I felt like there, you know, you could almost, she is a demigod. You could almost have some sort of messianic kind of analogies that you could make to it. You could do a really good theological thing about it, but just the idea of sort of God looking down upon his children and seeing their ability to hurt each other and to.
In a way, it very is. It's like Zeus, representative of God,
Yeah.
and Wonder Woman being like Jesus and coming down to defeat Satan and save humanity.
I
Very,
just love it
very
so
biblical.
much.
Yep.
Yeah, and I get it that it has its flaws. I do, but I don't care because I love it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you won't find a movie without flaws. I've always hated that argument. It's a great movie, but it does have its flaws. Well, no
Everybody
doubt.
has flaws.
It was
No
made
movie
by a
is perfect.
human being. It has continuity errors. It has flaws. It has plot holes. It was made by a person.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not about that. It's about how can you connect with the movie no matter what flaws are in there. And Wonder Woman, I mean, beginning to end, it got me.
There's no need to nitpick everything and be like a nostalgia critic, all right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love the nostalgia critic, by the way. That's just his style. I'm just
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
Doug,
yeah.
if you're watching this, Doug, if by chance you're watching this, I love your work. I watch it all the time. You're good at what you do.
He's got his shtick, but I don't know. I just, if you didn't bond with it emotionally, I get it. It's just sort of a standard formula superhero movie, but I did, and I think I had a spiritual movie layer to it that I really just thought was really moving and beautiful and great. So anyway, all right. So we are finished round one. So I think we'll probably come back and whether it's next week or a couple weeks, we'll figure it out. Summer's kind of hard, but we have narrowed it down to the 24, and it's a pretty solid little list here that will then next time we will narrow it down even more and come up with our number one. So it should be pretty fun. And so yeah, thanks so much for joining us in joining me and all of us in this tournament. I hope you guys had fun. And so if you all want to just say where can people find you?
All right. Well, everybody, you can find me on Twitter at master_DG. You can find me on my YouTube channel at David Gerlach. It's I'm sure it'll be in the description below. So if you want spelling, it'll be there. Like I said earlier, review movies, do anything. It's just kind of my personality blended into some videos that some are reviewing, some aren't. So yeah, that's me.
All right. Hi again, Larry here. And you can find me on YouTube, on Twitter, or on Instagram. All of them are going to go under the handle LC Screen Talk. So L like Larry, C like my last name, Chilson, and then Screen Talk.
Well, awesome. Well, I'm Durbin, and you can find me on Durbania. So you go to YouTube and you type in Durbania. As far as I know, I'm the only person on YouTube that has such a name, so I should be the only thing that pops up, and do a lot of movie reviews, spoiler-free, spoiler talk, ranking videos, things like that. But like we just did with Wonder Woman, where we kind of dug a little deep, got a little spiritual with it, I have a segment called a theological analysis of, where I like to do that with movies every week. And I'll pick a movie, and I'll dig deep into it and kind of dissect it like that. 'Cause I don't know. I'm a nerd, and I think it's incredibly fun.
Aren't we all?
I love it. All right, great. And thanks so much. And we will be together soon. And I will announce on Twitter and things when that will happen. So thanks. You can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on social media and at 54 Disney Reviews on my blog. And thanks again. And we will talk soon.